You hear it before you see it. A low growl just past the tree line. Your body freezes before your brain catches up. Adrenaline floods your chest. Your legs coil. Every hair on your arms stands up. For you, that's a strange dog behind a fence. For your ancestors, that sound meant something was about to die. For roughly 300,000 years, every night was a negotiation with something like that sound. Lions, hyenas, saber-toothed cats, wolves. The world your ancestors lived in was not peaceful. It was a buffet, and they were not at the top of it. So how did a slow, soft, furless primate end up running the planet? The answer is not a bigger brain. It is not fire. It is not sharper tools. The answer almost certainly is a wolf. The first time anyone suggested this out loud was a young graduate student named Ray Coppinger in the 1970s. He looked at the village dogs of the world, the loose, noisy, mongrel populations that hang around every human settlement from Mongolia to Mexico, and he asked a simple question. Where did they come from? The old story was that humans tamed wolves, that some Ice Age hunter caught a wolf cub, raised it by the fire, taught it to sit, and turned it into a dog. It is a satisfying story. It is also almost certainly wrong. Coppinger's idea was the opposite. Wolves tamed themselves. Here is how it would have worked. The wolves that hung around human camps were the bold ones. They were the wolves willing to get close to a bunch of upright apes who threw bones into the garbage. Those wolves got an easy meal. They lived longer. They had more pups. And those pups, raised around humans from birth, were a little less afraid, a little less aggressive, a little more able to read the strange body language of a talking primate. Over 10,000 years, that is a lot of generations, the wolves began to change. Their skulls got smaller. Their teeth got smaller. Their ears sometimes flopped. Their tails sometimes curled. They started barking, something wild wolves almost never do. They started wagging. They were becoming dogs, and we did not do it on purpose. But here is the part that should stop you cold. Your ancestors did not just tolerate this. Your ancestors fed them on purpose. The archaeological evidence for this is now overwhelming. At a site called Ein Mallaha in Israel, dated to around 12,000 years ago, a young man was buried holding a puppy in his arms. The puppy's skeleton shows it was weaned, meaning it had been deliberately fed by humans, and it died at about the same time as the man. They were buried together. At pre-dynastic Egypt, at Mesolithic sites across Europe, at the 8,000-year-old cemetery at Cima de los Husos in Spain, the same picture keeps repeating. Dogs appear in the human dead. They were mourned. They were given names we will never know. But that is only half the story, because the other half is what those wolves gave back. And what they gave back, the anthropologist Pat Shipman calls the animal connection, may be the single biggest reason your species survived. Shipman pointed out something obvious once you see it. Modern humans arrived in Europe around 45,000 years ago. Within roughly 12,000 years, every single large carnivore on the continent was gone. Cave lions, cave bears, cave hyenas, all extinct. Neanderthals, who had survived multiple ice ages, were also gone. Coincidence? Probably not. A human with a wolf is a fundamentally different predator than a human without one. Dogs track by scent at night. They run prey into exhaustion. They flush game out of thick cover. They warn of ambush predators. They pull down animals many times their size by the hamstring. And crucially, they do all of this for food and a place to sleep. A single human with a dog can bring down a deer. A band of humans with dogs can bring down a mammoth. That is not a small upgrade. That is the difference between a species that scrapes by and a species that takes over a continent. James Suzman, who spent decades living with the Hadza of Tanzania, the closest thing we have to a surviving Ice Age people, has watched their dog packs work. The Hadza do not own their dogs. The dogs own themselves. They show up. They hunt with the humans. They share the kill. And when food is scarce, the dogs quietly disappear because they can feed themselves. And here is the strange part. The Hadza cannot imagine not having dogs. Which means, for at least 30,000 years, your ancestors went to sleep each night with a warm body curled at their feet. A body that heard the growl in the dark first. A body that woke them when something was wrong. A body that, when the worst happened, would fight beside them to the death. That is what a dog is. It is not a pet. It is not a decoration. It is the oldest technology your species ever invented. A self-replicating, self-fueling alarm system, hunting partner and bodyguard that evolved to love you back. And every time you scratch a dog behind the ears today, every time a dog sleeps on your feet, every time a dog loses its mind with joy when you come home, you are touching the ghost of a 30,000-year-old alliance that is the reason your species is still here to feel it. That growl you heard at the start. For you, it was behind a fence. For your ancestors, it was the reason the dog was there at all.